The Arjakar rape and murder case that has sent the shockwaves throughout the entire country, with the doctors and citizens taking to the streets to protest against what happened on the night of August 9th with a 31-year-old trainee doctor, has repeated demands of seeking justice for the victim and the safety of the healthcare workers, especially women, are echoing everywhere. Now, the Supreme Court has also taken suo motu cognizance of the matter, and the CBI is currently probing the several angles pertaining to the case, including the financial irregularities that were being carried by the Arjakar Medical Hospital and College. But amid the outrage and the probe, it is important to look for solutions. In the light of that, the NewsX has proposed that India needs a scientific study of the sexual predators so that we understand the things which go behind the minds of these sexual predators. Our campaign has gained momentum as West Bengal Governor Dr. Ananda Bose has called it as an excellent suggestion. IMA President Dr. Asokan has also extended his support to our campaign. In the exclusive interview with reputed American researcher Ann Burgess, who has worked with the FBI, she has voiced out on why the study is crucial and how these findings can help police officials and other agencies understand the minds of the sexual predators. Reputed psychologists and doctors have also shown their support to our campaign. Support has also been pouring from across the country on our campaign from various doctors, psychologists and celebrities who have also hailed the campaign, saying that this is the need of the hour. In the telecast, we are being joined by two special guests. One is dancer and educator Pratibha Prahlad, and another is Dr. Rajat Mitra, a renowned psychologist, to talk about the incident and a case. I appreciate you both joining me on the broadcast. I welcome you both. Dr. Pratibha, I beg your pardon, Pratibha Prahlad, who is a renowned artist and Padma Shri awardee, is a Bharatiya dancer and educator, choreographer, arts administrator and author. She was the founder and director of the Delhi International Arts Festival. Now, my first question to you is that do you think that such a scientific study will help us building more accurate policies and laws to prevent these kind of incidents and rapes in particular, also including the sexual assaults in the long run?
See, these studies have been done before, and even if I remember right, in 2019, NCPCR and AIMS collaborated to do a psychological analysis of juvenile delinquents and juvenile sexual predators. The studies have been done, and the findings of these studies are being, informed to legislators, who then, of course, take action. But that is a parallel kind of a line that that is taken, because we need to know what is happening in our society. We need to know, whether extreme urbanization and the fact that the dissolution of the unit of joint family structure is contributing to it. We also need to understand whether what kind of dysfunctional homes do these sexual predators come from. All this is very, very important, and I understand it's very important to make a study. But on the other hand, we also have to have informed policing and informed women crime investigators. What I mean by women crime investigators are those that know the guidelines as to how to investigate when there is a crime against women or against children, especially sexual crimes. So, but these kinds of guidelines have to be distributed in every police station, and a police station should always have, according to me, a special cell, a women's cell, which addresses these kinds of issues 24/7. So, we can do these studies and we can try to understand it, but we do know that we are a transitional society, and there is a lot of transition happening around us, and there's a huge divide between the educated and the semi-educated, or the uneducated, the informed, the semi-informed, and the uninformed, and these are also things that one has to look into and consider.
Yes, Ms. Prahlad. While I understand that there has to be an essential need to reinforce these basic changes at the police and the administration level, but what essentially I need to look at this point of time is the nature of the study that we are talking at this point of time, where the FBI has conducted such studies in the past, and they have remarkably shown great impact in understanding the motives of the criminals and develop the patterns on how these behaviors have impacted into committing these crimes. Do you think they can be roped in by the measures that have been adapted in the studies that have been conducted by the FBI?
If I remember right, the FBI studies started in the 70s, when crimes were on the increase in US. And the way they kind of approach lawmaking, the way they approach this whole business of justice is very different from the way we do it. So that is something that we have to keep in mind when we try to look for a parallel with the FBI studies. If I remember right, at that time, even the person who kind of made this extensive report for FBI had stated that there could be some inadequacies in these findings, and that everything cannot be understood or told at the same time. And so one has to also keep in mind, apart from the fact that most of these people have mental disorders, they come from dysfunctional families, they have a very distorted perception of reality, of who they are vis-a-vis what society expects of them. And they also found that most of them are extremely intelligent, and they have not been able to function in society as per the norms of society, as per the expectations of society. And so they feel, they have been rejected. There's a feeling of rejection and a feeling of being discarded. So I don't know if all of the findings of that study can be superimposed on the Indian cultural systems, because we've had a very different kind of a problem. And we also know that our family structures were different. Our little communities used to also be like police, like police officers. Basically, when you live in a village and everybody knows everybody, then these kinds of offenses can't happen, because people know who does it, why do they do it. It's only when in these urban slums, as they call, or in this vast, big cities where people come and they don't have, a family kind of a support group, they don't have a community support group, they don't have a friends support group, that these kinds of crimes, become more prevalent.
Very essential point that has been made, in fact, in this conversation. But also, let me put a little light on the fact that medical sciences such as brain mapping of these rapists can help build solutions in our fight against rape culture in the society. Do you agree to this kind of narrative, or do you think that it's not essential at all when we talk about fighting with the system when we are raging against the rapes and sexual violence happening against women?
I understand there are two aspects to this. One is, understanding through interviews the behavioral intentions of the criminal and the behavioral action of the criminal, and that happens without, like you said, brain mapping. For brain mapping, if I understand correctly, in India, a special permission has to be taken from the court. If you're going to put nodes and try to understand the neurological differences between criminals, sexual predators, and people who are kind of functional in society and who have normal kind of behavioral patterns, and I don't know how this can be done, and I don't know how frequently it can be done, and on how many people it can be done. According to the information that I have, the Ministry of Home Affairs has a database of about 10,400 some odd criminals who have committed crimes against women and children. And they have this database, and this database, I'm told, has been circulated to various states and union territories. And there's a sort of a profiling of the criminal and what they do, what they talk, how they behave, how they function in society. But in a large society like ours, with with such a huge population, and the police, it's not sufficient to be keeping watch on every person or every family or every individual and his whatever his whereabouts and what he goes about doing. So I don't know. I mean, brain mapping can be done, yes, but can it be a very like a scientifically based understanding of criminal behavior? Maybe. Can it be a basis for criminal intent? I'm not sure, because criminal intent and criminal behavior are two separate things.
All right. Also, Ms. Prahlad, what other solutions can the medical community now come up with in our fight against the sexual assaults and rapes? And what are essentially the other suggestions that in fact you would also like to pitch in when we discuss and when we deep dive in detail about how the system which needs to be changed, reformed and completely revamped when we talk about protecting our women, protecting ourselves from these kind of sick-minded criminals in the society?
I believe that a long time ago, I don't know if I should be saying this, not very long, I mean, it's after Nirbhaya, a lot of doctors, well-known doctors in India, suggested that there should be chemical castration of offenders, so that it could put the fear of law in people who may be wanting to do it in future. Now, well, that can be a solution. It may put the fear of law in some people, depending on how fast you're going to do it. But we brought about, life imprisonment and death penalty, and even after the Nirbhaya Act has come into existence, crimes against women and children are on the rise. And that is the most worrisome question. Where does it stem from? What are the causes of it? According to me, the root cause is in patriarchy, the patriarchal system of society. And I really think that, in a patriarchal system, you kind of internalize misogyny. Now, it's how are the children brought up in the house, girls and boys, a girl child and a boy child. They're brought up differently. They're given different food in some homes. And when the birth of a boy is celebrated, the birth of the girl is not celebrated. And the boy is given, resources. The girl is not given resources. Maybe even her diet is different from the boy child. Not sent to schools, not sent to colleges, not given adequate facilities to grow. So when you start discriminating between boys and girls at home, at the family level, and then at the community level, and then at the society level, you already have a problem, because boys grow up, feeling entitled. They feel that they have some sort of a privilege, some sort of an entitlement over the feminine gender, and that is a serious problem, and that has to be corrected and addressed culturally and socially by our society, by informing, having learning programs, in every rural space, urban space, wherever you can, schools, everywhere, and maybe Anganwadi workers among them, to teach them that girls and boys are equal, that they should be given equal opportunities, they should be treated equally, and that both the genders have a role to play in societal building, in nation building. Now, as long as we don't do that in our society, I think these problems are going to increase.
Certainly. Also, how do you make of the recent Kolkata horror where a trainee doctor was raped and murdered while on duty? What was your first thought, especially after you saw this news all over and how it took the internet, and also the discourse of discussion that happened across us, and how this was yet another case, that followed up after Nirbhaya, and how big it got, and still it is under the probe by the CBI?
I have been speaking about it a lot, and at first I was outraged, and then I was in despair, and I couldn't sleep for a couple of days, because here was this girl who had worked so hard to become a doctor. We know how hard it is to get admission, first of all, to study medicine, and a single child from parents who are not very privileged, who makes it to becoming a doctor and then is posted in a college. And what is she? She's doing her post-graduation. She's a resident doctor. She is supposed to do duty. All doctors have to do duty. So how is this young woman even to imagine that this kind of a horror awaits her after doing a duty, performing duty as a doctor for 34 hours or 36 hours? That saddened me. But what outraged me is the fact that the first responders, didn't anybody hear her scream? Didn't anyone go to her rescue? No, they did not. But it's a hospital, so there must have been other doctors there, other intern doctors, whatever you call them. There must have been other nurses there. There must have been other attendees there. It can't be like there's nobody. It's like a booth bangla and everything is silent, and there's just this one woman over there and one chap who goes and commits this horrific crime on her. No, it can't be that. So my point is, where were the first responders? Why, when they discovered the body, okay, let's assume they discovered the body in the morning. What was the principal doing? What was the staff doing? Why were everyone allowed to enter that space? Why were the parents kept away for so long? And why were the parents given wrong information that their child had committed suicide? Why was a zero FIR not filed? Now, a zero FIR does not require the parents to file it or a relative to file it. A zero FIR, after Nirbhaya Act says that anyone can file an FIR. The principal could have done it. Anybody out there could have done it. Her colleagues could have done it, and the police themselves could have done it, suo motu. There's not even a jurisdiction that's applicable in the zero FIR. That was not filed. And then they, send the body for post-mortem. And they filed the FIR as unnatural death after post-mortem, after 14 hours, on discovering the body. Why? It's supposed to be quick action. And let me also tell you what really saddens me is the fact that Mamata Banerjee is the only woman chief minister we have in our country. And you would expect a powerful woman who also has the home ministry, which means the entire police machinery under her, a powerful woman who's also the health minister, which means all the medical colleges and everything comes under her, to take quick action. Where is the empathy? Where is the humanity? Where is the concern that somebody has had to go through this horrible crime in a supposedly safe place? Institution, a hospital, a college, a school. These are all supposed to be safe spaces where children are supposed to be safe, where doctors are supposed to be safe, where even patients are supposed to be safe. If this is a crime that can be can happen in a safe space, a supposed safe space, what was everybody doing? Why was the principal suspended for 4 hours and reinstated in a different college as the principal? That is a huge question mark, not just in my mind, but I'm sure in a large population of our country's minds. Because they must be wondering why is he being protected? Why is this principal being protected? Why didn't he take responsibility, accountability? Why didn't he call the police? Why didn't he call the ambulance? Why didn't he call the parents and ensure that everything was done as per protocol? Nothing happened as per protocol. And all of us know that. And our angst against the Mamata Banerjee government is that protocols were not followed. What is the use of her being the chief minister or a home minister or a health minister, if she perpetuates misogyny in the TMC party. You also saw how evidence was, vandalized the very next day. There were all those, people who came and who kind of broke everything down. And we also saw, in horror, we saw all the TMC, legislators tweeting some horrible comments about breaking fingers for anybody who opposes, doing something else. Now, why is she perpetuating misogyny in the TMC? Why can't she just suspend these guys? Why have this culture in TMC? And that, to me, is very, very, very worrisome.
Well, indeed, rightly said, and in fact, very nuanced comments that have been made by Ms. Pratibha here on the broadcast. I really appreciate you giving us time and your valuable inputs as far as the shame from this case has come down to the nation. Thank you for speaking to us. Now, joining me next is my other guest, Dr. Rajat Mitra, who is a senior psychologist. Sir, I welcome you on the broadcast. Thank you for speaking to NewsX. First up, I want to understand from you about your first reaction to the campaign that has been launched by NewsX, where we are inviting the most qualified scientific minds to discuss the profiling of rapists. Would you be willing to extend your support also to this campaign, and how do you view this being implemented at a larger scale, offering the benefits of having a study curated to study these minds so that it can help in reforming such sickness in the society?
Yes, absolutely. I think profiling of rapists, their modus operandi and the signature by which they operate are extremely important for us to know and develop policies by which the crime can be reduced. Rape, as we know, is a behavioral crime, and the crime scene is the woman's body. There is a shift needed in the mindset of the police judiciary that the crime scene in rape is the woman's body, and rape is a behavioral crime and more behavioral out of all crimes. So therefore, profiling is an extremely important procedure in order for us to curb this crime, and I'll extend my full support for that.
Well, thank you for all your words, and indeed profiling will enhance the kind of study and the kind of lessons that we can get from this campaign. Now, do you also think, Mr. Mitra, that such a scientific study will help us building more accurate policies and laws to prevent rapes and sexual assaults in the long run having been committed in the country?
Sure, it will not only help policies, but it will profoundly influence the sentencing process. Today's sentencing process for rapists is, can be often very arbitrary. The judge or the courtroom scene is often like this, where they decide on the quantum of trauma for the person depending upon personal or sometimes even subjective factors. There is a great deal of objectivity which is needed right now in the courts in order to make the sentencing more streamlined, more smooth, and also something which is relevant for the rapist and for the society. So that sense of objectivity can only be brought about by such a process.
Certainly, sense of objectivity is also important to look at. Sir, we also have the FBI, which has conducted such studies, which have shown remarkable great impact on the understanding of the motives that criminals develop and the patterns as well. Do you think these kind of studies and the measures can also be roped in to essentially help with what India is trying to do at this point of time?
Absolutely, they can be roped in, and I think they have a behavioral sciences unit which they have developed over the years. And I know that periodically from time to time I was also asked to do so, but I think the political will was not there, and the kind of inputs that were needed as a formal policy was never developed. Neither after Nirbhaya, nor even the period after that. So a formal institutionalized way is extremely important. A behavioral sciences unit is very much needed over here in our country.
Mr. Mitra, do you also agree with the fact that medical sciences such as brain mapping of rapists can help build solutions in our fight as a society against rape in the further course of years, because it is becoming more so important because it's 2024 and we are still debating about the measures only that need to be reinforced as more and more women choose to work, more and more women come out and have the financial independence in the first place?
Absolutely. I think brain mapping and other procedures are what we call pre-indicators for how a person may behave or is going to behave. And pre-indicators are extremely important to know which direction a person is developing, how a person is growing in turning to be an offender, a criminal. So I think that it will greatly contribute to that process.
Mr. Mitra, what are the other solutions that the medical community, you being one from the same community and fraternity, what are the other solutions that we can look at which can be provided in our fight against sexual assaults and rapes in the country?
One is that make it a community approach, because when people see crime in our country, they don't report it. That's one. Secondly, to make it multidisciplinary. So it is not just one particular discipline that can help in curbing the crime, but several disciplines together can and need to work together with a great deal of political will behind that in order to develop such an institution that can do this job.
Well, thank you for all your inputs, Dr. Mitra. We appreciate you joining on the broadcast for all your valuable inputs. Now, viewers, that was all the news of the nation and the world. We'll continue to track all the developments very closely. Stay with us.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.